it goes and where we stand. I'll give you a little update. Give me a second, please. Sorry, I had something in my throat. Um, the developers, no joke. We have a team of uh, 3 or 4 developers right now, and we just picked up another back end developer, which is where we were kind of lacking. And so the lead developer, Be Thirsty, um, I'll post his Twitter in the comments. Um, he's been kind of doing the back end on his own for since we started, but we brought this new guy in probably like about a week or two ago, and since then those two have been collaborating. Like I'll see him in the team chat every day, the development chat, and it's just nonstop, like collaborating, just knocking off one issue after another, and it all the developers out there know this, and I'm not a developer, but I just understand it because I see like developers working and stuff. But like, you solve one issue, and it literally just creates another issue. So it's just one issue after another, and then you also got to understand, like, for what we're building, there's literally like almost zero documentation out there for this type of stuff. We're building something from scratch basically, and I mean, like, even the Unisat docs or the open source Unisat code, it's been helpful to us, but it's not like it. Anybody that's gone through it, like my developers have, it's not like it's been helpful, but it's not exactly a perfect world. So you got to understand, we're basically building something from literally from scratch, and on top of that, it's a completely new protocol that Benny's building, and he's over there trying to help us, with our questions as far as tapping into the no pun intended, but tapping into the tap protocol APIs. And then, we're having issues with the client and server side, and there's like limitations on calling these APIs. So we got to set up databases to cache the data. And this is like, my developers are really, really intelligent people, but at the same time, like I said initially when we first started this, is that they've never built on Bitcoin. So this is like new stuff for them. These streaming APIs, they're just completely different types of it up extremely fast. And I don't want to make any promises, but we can possibly, like, the explorers the explorer page, which we were previously calling the on tap page, which is basically like the token list page. It lists all the tap tokens. That is literally, it's done, but we're having like loading issues where it's taking like almost 30 seconds to like 45 seconds to load all this data. So that is what we're working on right now, is optimizing that. And then we could possibly have that ready by this weekend. And not only will it be the Explorer, so you can see all the tap tokens, but you'll be able to connect to the application, and you'll be able to hopefully check your own balances as well, and check your wallets. If the connect button isn't set up yet, you'll still be able to do that, but it'll be more of like a manual way where you like input your address, and then it'll show all your tokens. And then on top of that, the designer, it's funny because these guys, they all feel like they're under a lot of pressure, but I'm a pretty low pressure type of guy. And the designer was like, well, 2 weeks, and we'll be good. But it's been like 2.5 or 3 weeks now, and he's almost done. There's a lot of components involved in these applications. Sorry, somebody keeps calling me. There's a lot of components involved in these applications, like headers, footers, and just buttons here, little pop-ups that come up, and so there's all types of little design things that people don't think about that we actually have to do design. And all the components are done. The Figma files are pretty much complete, and we're just about implementing the front end, the design into the front end code. So I don't want to promise that it will be ready this weekend, but more than likely, it could be. There could be some bugs and some failures. Um, I think possibly, more than likely, we're going to just open it up to like some kind of private testing this weekend, and then do like a full release next week. More I think that's going to be the safer bet. Um, that's the state of things right now as far as Tap Exchange go. I don't think he asked me about going into like the future, so I won't get into that. But we do have some other plans, and if you'd like to get into that, I can. But I feel like I've been kind of talking for a bit, so I'm going to shut up for a second.
No, that's great, man. Great update. I do have a couple questions. So this update that you just spoke about, is that going to just be to where the website displays all the tap tokens? There's not going to be any buying or selling with this coming up update, right?
Correct. And that was I've stated this a few times in spaces and also in our chat rooms and whatnot, but that is very correct. We are first building this explorer type page where you can see all the tokens. But the thing is a lot of the development that we're doing right now, and a lot of the like the I don't want to like try to use words that I'm not actually like knowledgeable about, but the the things that they're developing right now, they're all tools and like code that we're going to be able to use for the marketplace as well. So like this is literally like foundational type stuff that we're building. So I don't expect the actual marketplace once we move into that to take that long for us to develop, but this brings me back to what I initially said when I first started talking, and it's development, and this is all new. These are all new protocols, and um, and issues happen. And I mean, this is just like internally with our project. This doesn't even have to do with Tap Protocol and the external factors that I won't mention specifically, which may affect them, you know? And we all know what's going on right now. We're seeing the tweets out there and what's going on in Twitter and in the GitHub discussion, and I'm not going to get too into that, but like these external factors could also affect these protocols that these developers are pouring their hearts into, and then essentially also affect the people who are building products on top of these protocols like myself. And in a sense it's like some of us feel like we're getting a little fucked over, excuse my language, but that's just the bottom line. And I was listening to a spaces last night, and I know I said I'm not going to get into this, but I was listening to a spaces last night, and someone said, I forget who was, he said, well, this is beta, this is beta. And it is beta, and it was more in regards, the context was more about money, and I get that, but I'm only bringing that up because issues can happen, but it's not going to stop us. Like these external factors, whatever ultimately does happen, um, with ordinals and inscription numbers, whatever does happen, it's not going to stop what I'm trying to build here and what my team's trying to build here. We're going to keep going. We're going to get through it. But I had to bring that up because, like, we could sit here and we could spend months or whatever. Let's say it takes us. I say it takes us a month to build the marketplace, right? And then all of a sudden there's these changes to the ordinal theory, and then all of a sudden it affects the Tap protocol. Well, then obviously that's going to affect us in certain ways too, and that's multiple issues are going to arise that we're going to have to instantly like try to understand and hopefully overcome and fix. And all, on that note, I'm just going to end on this. If you can check my Twitter, go check my Twitter. I made a pretty decent tweet about a possible solution, and it's not even my idea. It's Benny's idea. If you go read through that GitHub discussion, Benny has so many good points and ideas, and I feel like it's like he's like they're like blatantly ignoring him, and to be frank, it kind of pisses me off. It really does.
Yeah, I think I actually saw that. If it's the same one I'm talking or you're talking about, was the most recent one that Benny had tagged Casey in. Was the recent proposal? It seemed very logical, and it could appease most all parties, right? So really hope that they open up and listen to him, and everybody really that's trying to put a good solution forward. But yeah, so you spoke a little bit about future plans and stuff like that. Is that something you want to touch on, or do you want to wait until things are more solidified? Uh,
No, I'm excited about it. There's two routes I can take, and we know the route that Unisat is taking, and I'm not putting them down. I commend them for what they're building and what they've done in the space. I've always been a Unisat supporter. You can check my YouTube out. I had some of the most popular Unisat videos when BRC20s first started. I still use Unisat every single day. Like it's my go-to inscriber. It's the wallet I use for connecting to websites. But the route that they're taking, as far as stacks and that route, it's not the route that I feel is the route that we want to go. And that's just not my personal opinion. That's me speaking with uh, some intelligent people in the space who are also building and the route that they want to go. And I've seen how they work and the things that they do. And I would much rather put my what I'm building behind them instead of uh, what I'm going to call this gatekeeping type situation that people are trying to build, and really it just makes no sense to me. So our future plan, possible future plans, we have two. Benny has a possible solution. He just released a new function for internal function for the tap protocol. I believe Mattyverse did a video on it. You could check that out. I forget what it's called. I can't go into detail about it, but in the conversation I had with Benny, it is one possible solution. The other possible solution is I've been speaking with Jake and Jay from the Bison team, Bison Labs, I believe. And funny, they live near me, so I think I said this on a couple other spaces, but when I met BitGod um, a week or so ago, they were there, and I had been speaking with Jake for like over a month, and I didn't even realize that it was the same guy. And he's like, dude, like we've been talking for a month on Telegram. Like, don't you know?" And I was like, I know, I don't know, man. I'm sorry. I've got a lot going on, and sometimes I just don't know. But Bison, I can't say too much about this because of what they're building. I don't know how private they are, but I know that they are releasing their testing. They're opening up, I believe, I don't know if it's public or if it's like invite only, but there's some form of testing going on. But I'm very intrigued with what they're building. Um, I don't even want to use buzzwords because I refuse. And the thing is that we've had calls with them, and they're very, very open to collaborating and working with Tap Exchange on building a swap style site. And this is very possible to do without stacks, without that route that Unisat is going. Um, Now I can't go into details, like I said, but just keep an eye on Bison. And to be honest, they've already shared some of their code with us that we're going to need to build this swap. They have uh, they showed me, um, a prototype in a video call that we were on of the swap, and they have given us this code. Like that's how kind they are. Like they've given us this code, and they're like, here, because they want us to be able to use that and build our own swap, right? I don't know if you guys know what Bison's building. I haven't read a lot on their Twitter, so I that's why I'm not revealing too much information, because I have no idea how much information they've revealed. Go ahead, Shizzy.
Yeah, we actually had them on the show. I want to say about 2 weeks ago, and they discussed a lot of stuff. So if anyone hasn't checked that out and want to hear from Jay Lee himself, go check out Owner Evolution episode with Jay Lee from Bison Labs. But yeah, they actually said a lot on that episode, and it's about like the bitmap tokenizing and like so much more. Bison Labs is incredible. We are so bullish on them, and we actually have an interview again with them this upcoming Friday, where we're going to get into a lot more stuff. So everyone could just like stay tuned for that. That should be really exciting. Hopefully, we can get them to show that what they showed Santiago. Maybe we can get them to show that on our stream, so everyone can see it together. So that'd be really cool, and hopefully, they're willing to do that.
Hopefully, for sure. I would assume that they would be. The cool thing too is since you guys are this Friday, you have a show with them, right? Is what you're saying?
Yes, sir. This Friday.
Cool. Yeah, because we're gonna be having our next hopefully voice call video chat. Myself and my lead developer and Jake and Jay on Thursday. So hopefully some fruitation comes from that meeting as well, and maybe they can speak about something. Who knows? But I'll end on this note: is Bison Labs will have, or Bison, I don't know if it's Labs, Bison will have a swap as well, like on their application, but that's not going to be their main focus. Like they're building the protocol, right? They're building they're building what they're building, and they're I don't want to say what their main thing is. I'll let them speak on that on Friday, but like their focus isn't going to be this swap. And we can sit here and consider it competition, right? Like, okay, well, what if people go just swap on Bison? Like, why would they do that? And why would they use Tap Exchange? But like, our focus is going to be the swap. Our focus is like the exchange, and like, so we're gonna have, and at the same time, the agreement and terms that we come to with Bison is like, it's gonna be incentivized for people to be swapping on our site for them as well. There's incentive for Bison for people to be swapping on Tap.exchange as well. That's it, basically. I really hope the Bison partnership and collaboration goes well, because that's the route I'd like to take. And I really hope that I can speak more details on it in the future, because I'm actually kind of excited about it.
Yeah, like Shizzy was saying, we've had them on the show. We're in constant contact with them. They're doing huge things. They're like you said, it's not just the swap that they're focused on. They're focused on an ecosystem here, right? So, but that's they're trying to make it feel as though you're still on native, ordinals. You're that same feeling, right? So that's awesome. I didn't want to actually. I heard some rumors that you guys were meeting and stuff, but I didn't want to speak on it until you did. So I'm kind of glad that you opened that can of worms. Um, yeah, that's exciting. And then also, what Benny came out with what you were talking about is the authorized internal authorized function, I believe, which is kind of like a zero knowledge type of technique, I believe. I'm probably not right exactly about that. He can speak on that if he wants to jump on the stage. But I really hope that Bison can work with Benny and you and all these smaller developers that don't have all this millions of dollars of funding that's backing them, can kind of rise up here, right? And the community can kind of come together, because at the end of the day, like, everybody wants to be successful. Unless you're a piece of shit, then we don't want you to be successful because you're not a good person. No, but there's not really many of those people in our space, right? So just keep supporting each other, is what I'd say. And I'm excited for what you guys got going at Tap.exchange.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we have. Go ahead.
I appreciate that, and I will say this too: is when the solutions for the two paths that we could possibly go were presented to me, like I consulted with Benny specifically, and I asked him. I was like, well, like, what is your opinion? Like, what do you think? And he encouraged me to go the Bison route. So what you just said about the tweet, Benny's tweet, that is correct. I don't know the technical details about it. Like I said, a lot of my time is just spent building. I try to ignore a lot of the outside noise. Right now it's a little hard, but um even, and I don't call like these new features noise or anything. It's just I don't have time to have fun and explore them right now. I really wish I did, but I don't.
Yeah, yeah, it's like Benny and Jay Lee are like the reason why I'm so bullish on this space. Guys like this, man. I mean, we talk to these guys so often. We talk to Jay Lee a few times, talk to Benny all the time, and it's just these two brains, man. Are every time I talk to them, I'm just blown away by like how smart and innovative these guys are. And I'm a huge fan of what Jay Lee is building. Huge fan of what Benny has already built and is continuing to build. And every time I talk to him, he's talking about bridges and there's like holy like where how do you get the time for this stuff, man? They're incredible people, and that's just why I'm so bullish on Tap and why I'm so bullish on Bison and real ordinals in general. If we keep the subscription number or not, none of that shit really matters because innovation is coming and it's going to be so strong, man. It's going to be absolutely amazing. We're all here super early. But Santiago, I have a question for you. Like, so you're building on Tap. What are some like advantages would you say building on Tap over like a BRC20? Just for someone who's new and doesn't really understand what Tap is, could you break this down for us?
Well, essentially, we're always gonna need like this baseline, like where we trade these like these transfer inscriptions, right? The three external functions that BRC20 has, and also Tap tokens have. That's the I believe it's the deploy, mint, and transfer. Those are the three external functions. But Tap protocol extends upon that and adds internal functions, and these internal functions can be changed. They can, he can add new functions like he just did, and he can remove functions. He can update functions. Like the airdrop function is a prime example. That was one of the first one. That's what caught me in my attention to Tap is the airdrop function. I was like, oh, what the fuck is this? And I went and I did this big old airdrop or little airdrop, and then I figured it out, made some videos, and I was like hooked on Tap. And then so these internal functions I think are what give the Tap protocol an edge case, because essentially once we start building like version 2, because like I'm saying, we want to get this marketplace out so people can trade transfer inscriptions, and that's just simple enough, and it'll please the people. They can stop using Discord to do and escrows to do trades or whatever, and then but these internal functions, essentially, we want to integrate all of these internal functions that Benny's building into our application. And I think that's what's going to be able to set us apart from these other protocols like BRC20 and ORC20. I mean, I'm not even talking crap on them. I don't know a lot about ORC20. I will say on ORC20 is that when they first came, like it was during the hype of BRC20, and the way they came kind of, it was more or less like trying to steamroll a little bit, and I wasn't pleased with that. Instead of like approaching Damo and saying like, hey, like maybe we can work together on expanding the BRC20 protocol somehow. And I think that's why I really like the Tap protocol as well, is because it doesn't leave the BRC20 uh in the dust, really. Like we can add the BRC20 functions to our exchange as well, where people are able to trade BRC20s back and forth. I don't know if we can add those as internal functions, but in my mind, I imagine that's something that Benny is like considering and thinking in his mind, and or possibly has already started working on, where there's some kind of bridge where you can bridge these BRC20s over to Tap, and then you can trade them on the Tap protocol, but ultimately also bridge them back to BRC20s. I wouldn't know the logic there. I'm almost certain that it could be done. I can't guarantee it. Maybe Benny could come up and elaborate a little bit on that, but there's a lot of things that excite me about the Tap protocol, and I think the internal functions and how they can be changed, modified, added, removed. I think those are the big ones, the big sellers to me, and why I chose to build, or we chose to build on Tap.
Awesome, thank you so much, man. You have a question?
Yeah, no, I just want to
All right.
say we're building around the Tap protocol, right? So um everything that Benny is sort of the track network is developing, we're sort of tailoring it to that community and that protocol. And Tap protocol does not compete directly with BRC20 as it's stated in top specs, or Benny stated that before as well. It's sort of like an advancement on BRC20 with the limitations BRC20 has. But going back to the point of like
Did he
out
rug?
there, like the, can you
Yeah,
guys not hear me?
talking, Yago.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Excuse me?
we hear you. You can
Yeah,
keep going.
yeah. So TAP protocol sort of like extends on the BRC20 protocol, right? It's not like a direct competitor to BRC20. I think Benny can speak more on that if he wants, but I know he has a flu right now, so he might not want to come up. And secondly, um, the question, what's happening in ordinals right now regarding the the numbers that Casey has put out on his blog. Those, from my understanding, is like those are sort of like changes that the core dev team for the ordinals wants to make ordinals better, right? And that might compromise the current uh, structure of the inscription numbers today. So that's why it's sort of interesting to see how that is going to evolve, since it is sort of like only 6-7 months old. We're going to see a lot of like improvements on the ordinal layer itself, and their sort of like goal is to have the have ordinals sort of pretty much the most efficient and effective way they think it would be ran. And the argument is that having changing the inscription order, unless I'm mistaken, because I was up till like 5 a.m. looking at that, and that all sort of ties into us and how we're building, because we have to, what we're doing is we're conscious of like execution speed and how fast things are changing. And ideally, we're building around Benny's protocol, but if a core change in ordinal theory happens, then that's going to affect every project on ordinals. They listed out some things in the docs in the GitHub. You guys can check it out if you're more interested in digging deeper into it. But it's quite interesting stuff, and it's sort of we're conscious of all that when we're building.
It is interesting, and I don't want to get too much into this because I'm gonna be writing out my thoughts and kind of posting a blog or a tweet or something about it, and I'm also going to speak on it next Tuesday on Ordi Chat. But I have a lot of thoughts about this, and I see how it affects multiple people in various different ways, and it's a crappy situation to be in, but like a lot of people keep saying, like it's been 7 months, and we just whatever does happen, ultimately whatever does happen, like you can't. Is this really going to be the wall that you don't want to climb over? Like come on, man. Like what happens, and then we figure out how to keep moving forward. I have my opinions about what should happen. I'm not going to go into those right now because, like I said, I'm going to make a tweet about it and talk about it on the show next Tuesday. But yeah, it is an interesting thing. It's funny though. I'll say this: is I was around for when SegWit was like when the soft fork basically of SegWit was put onto Bitcoin. Like this wasn't like some hard fork where they're like, okay, we're gonna add SegWit, right? It was all the nodes just started adopting SegWit, and that's a soft fork, and that's how it happened. The community has the consensus. All these people running or whatever, that they don't have to upgrade. Like Casey can do what he wants, but we don't have to upgrade. Like, and I know that sucks to say, but we don't have to. And I don't want to divide it and make two camps or whatever. It's like that would be kind of a crappy situation, but at the same time, it could be what happens. It honestly could be what happens. So everyone should be ready for this. Anybody building in this space should be ready for this, because we don't have the authority to go and say no, don't change the code. They have that authority, but we do have the authority to say, well, we're not going to accept that code. We're going to fork you, and we're going to go over here and do this. And the good thing about that is all your inscriptions, you'll basically have double of them. So yeah, anyways, I'm going to shut up now.
That basically creates a big forking orgy, right? Because that's just one of many forks that will probably happen. Everyone will probably just start
exactly, which is, in my opinion, kind of it's a shitty situation, man. I mean, I'm not look at Bitcoin Cash or whatever. I mean, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it could cause more innovation, and a different theory becomes the top theory. I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, I have my opinions about what should happen. I don't, in in my my personal opinion, I'm going to go with what Benny said. And basically, there's a way to do this without affecting the inscription numbers. And to me, it sounds like it's more than just affecting the inscription numbers. To me, it sounds like Casey wants the authority to be able to have the inscription numbers always change no matter what. So it's a floating type situation where like if a bug or an issue happens, like the inscription numbers will always be able to be changed, right? But there's also a way around that, like let 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 third party uh um indexers index these cursed inscriptions and just don't add them as inscriptions. That's the solution right there. And then they don't have to sit there and worry about um trying to facilitate some mechanism to track these freaking cursed inscriptions that they don't want to waste time on, which is the excuse they're using for this. But really, like, there's a solution, a possible solution, and that is let the third party indexers do it.
So are you saying basically like the larger centralized indexers won't acknowledge the curse inscriptions, but the third party smaller indexers will, like Track, for example, will be able to acknowledge the curse inscriptions, but then the Ord wallet just won't
Exactly.
acknowledge. Yeah, and so I mean, I think that's a great idea.
And there could be some kind of consensus that these third party indexers come to where it's like maybe there's a GitHub repo for this type of thing where it's like, okay, we need to come to a consensus about how we're going to index these cursed inscriptions. And really the only person that I've seen go to bat on trying to index these freaking cursed inscriptions is Benny. I haven't seen anyone else even try or give a crap about it. So like, why ruin everybody's inscription numbers, and make your excuse, it's these cursed inscriptions over here. No, it's not. Then stop trying to track cursed inscriptions, let the third party indexers do it, and keep building the ordinal theory. Like that's what you're there for. So anyways, I think I'm going too much into my own opinion now, so I'm
develop org the way they think is more efficient, right? And that requires this change. But yes, we can move on. We can move on from this.
All right. So, yeah, let's move on and kind of get back to Tap.exchange. That's why we're here, right? So, does anybody have any questions about, for Santiago on what the marketplace is going to look like, what the plans? We kind of heard what they're planning on doing with, possibly Bison Labs. But if anybody has any questions for Santiago, go ahead and raise your hand, or go ahead, BitLife.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what's the entry point? I sort of understand Bison Labs, and we're watching their testnet closely, but and we'll definitely buy your stuff on there to make it cheaper for us to purchase Tap assets. But is there another entry point, and will I need Bitcoin or stacks? What am I going to have to swap to get my hands on some Tap?
Uh, no. So the initial marketplace that we're building, it's going to function literally just like Unisat version right now, where you're trading transfer inscriptions. So all you need is you can use any of your wallets, the Xverse, I think Hyro, and then even Unisat wallet to connect to our application, and you'll be able to trade Tap assets for Sats, Satoshis, Bitcoin, basically. The moving on into the future, the swap, I can't get into too much details about how that's going to work. I will talk to Bison Labs on Thursday, like I said, and kind of pick their brain about how much details we can go into. But I'm hoping that on Friday they can kind of elaborate a little more on the future swap, and where we're headed, compared to this. It's like, who wants to do a transfer inscription just to like sell 20,000 freaking tokens, and you can't break it down into one token, and like, yeah, like, but at the same time we're always going to need that base layer, right? Like, so you can, if you're gonna whether it's you're bridging into Bison, right, and then you're swapping on Tap Exchange or Bison, whatever exchange you choose, it doesn't matter. You're swapping. Ultimately, you're going to want to bridge those back into like a regular Tap inscription or ordinal inscription. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that made sense. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and just to elaborate a little bit on that, and you can see from our episode, Jay talks about how you'll be able to bridge over BRC20s, and now if Tap protocol tokens partners with them, you'll be able to bridge those over. And from what he said, is it's going to be one block in, one block out, which is pretty amazing. If they can accomplish that, right? Which I have the confidence in them after talking to them. But you will also be able to bridge over your Bitcoin as well, right? So they'll have their version of Bitcoin. So there's a lot of great innovation happening with Bison and Tap protocol, and I really, really would love to see this kind of be like a partnership forming in terms of the protocol itself and living both on the ordinal layer as well as the Bison network. And those guys
the coolest thing about it literally is like Jay and Jake and myself and then my lead developer, we all live within 45 minutes of each other. That's like almost it was almost meant to happen if you think about it.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, whenever you're partnering with each other, it's good to be and be able to meet in real life, right? So you get to know who you're working with even more. So yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited for it. Any other questions for Santiago? No other questions for Santiago or anything about Tap? All right. Well, I mean, we can kind of get into the inscription numbers a little deeper if you guys want to. I think I can talk about that.
Oof.
I'm down. I mean, I'm not gonna get too personal about it, but I think if you not read between the lines, but listen between the lines of what I've been saying, you kind of have my stance on that. But I'm down to discuss it a little bit. I know it's an interesting topic in the world of ordinals right now, and we're here, so I'm curious to hear if people think Benny's solution, because I know there's a caveat to that. If you I think, let me see here. It says, and this is a direct quote from Benny, right? It says, let me see. Sorry. He says, well, I think that's easy to solve. And this was a response to some guy in the GitHub discussion. And I forget what the exact context was, but it'll still make sense. He says, well, I think that's easy to solve with third-party indexing. I didn't test that yet, but the number should be equivalent to the transaction index of each block. So if that turns out to be true, then the Ord wallet could completely remove those numbers and leave numbering to third-party indexers, which is basically what I was just saying. And this is not my idea. This is Benny's idea. And that caveat, I don't know if I'm saying that word right, but I didn't test that yet, right? So I hope Benny tests that. I hope somebody tests that. I don't know if this is the solution, but if this is a possible solution and that turns out to be true, then in my opinion, there is no better solution. Nobody loses their inscription numbers. And it comes down to what is the real reasoning behind this? I guess, yeah, maybe removing tracking inscription numbers is hard for them, but I mean, it sounds, I don't know, trivial to me. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And what I read in the discussion as well, a point that somebody made, which is kind of true, and I'm not dismissing it. It makes sense. Well, that's not true. That 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because these curse inscriptions are negative numbers. So when those curse inscriptions aren't counted as an actual inscription, and it was supposed to be number 6, then whatever's number 7 is now number 6, right? And that curse inscription is a curse inscription. I don't know if that made sense to anybody, but that's what I'm reading in the discussion there. In my opinion, I think it's an excuse to get rid of tracking inscription numbers, and they're using these curse inscriptions as that excuse, which is in kind of not professional. If you want the power to just change things, then just say it and don't make the excuse of, oh, it's these curse inscriptions. Well, okay, get rid of the curse inscriptions. Stop trying to track them. Let your team focus on the ORD wallet or ORD, and let these third-party indexers index the cursed inscriptions.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. The curse, the number of inscription, right? People put a lot of value on that number, the number being lower, and a lot of people pay tons of money to get inscriptions that were sort of sub 1K or the early inscriptions, and they're worth a lot. But that, as a purist, as an ordinal purist, if you look at the ordinal handbook, that sort of doesn't really give it a value in terms of like how much it's worth based on the number or how low the number is. So that's sort of like an interesting thing, because people who pay tons of money, they're gonna be super pissed when they realize that their inscriptions are not as valuable as they thought they were, because there was a whole meta of like, oh, the lower the number your inscription is, the more it's worth, therefore I'm gonna get in early. I think that's definitely another problem that you could see, I guess, but that would be just more from like how displeased the users would be, and is it ORD's goal to please the users who paid a lot of money, or in their minds to sort of advance the protocol itself?
Well, I'm also curious about the legal implications here, because if you think about it, I heard in the spaces last night, and I believe that BitLive was one of the speakers in there, and I was appreciating what he was saying, and I was appreciating what everybody was saying. But one of the things that was said, and I don't know if this is true, and I have two points to bring up right now. Is one is, I'm pretty sure that if the inscription numbers change, some of these tokens that were minted, BRC20 tokens that were minted, some of the inscriptions of the mints will become invalid. Now let's assume that I minted some track, right? And then all of a sudden the inscription numbers change and my inscription of track is invalid. But let's assume that I already sold that track to somebody on Unisat, right? And now they're holding that invalid inscription that isn't even track anymore, like that they purchased at a fair price on a marketplace. Like it goes further than just like affecting users and stuff. Like there's like legal implications here, to be honest. Like, well, there's a lot. There's not just a couple $1 million involved in this.
Yeah.
If you go back during the time, there was millions and millions and almost billions of dollars worth of volume happening on the BRC20 shit, dude. Like, a lot of money was spent there, and a lot of people are going to get fucked over if these inscription numbers are changed. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Well, I think CB Spears came out and said that they're possibly doing a BRC20 snapshot before doing an update to make sure that none of that is going to be messed with. But still, I don't know how that could go smoothly. My question is that why aren't they just sticking to like the original standard of what is an inscription? What constitutes a valid inscription? Because whenever they that was the whole point of like cursed inscriptions, right? Wasn't it to like, okay, this didn't fit the standard of an inscription, so we're gonna give it a negative number. So like, why wouldn't they just continue that and just ignore it? So like, where's the problem coming in here?
Well, their issue is that they don't want to spend time tracking these cursed inscriptions. If you read Casey's blog post, like it's taking too much of their resources, and it's taking too much of their developers' time, and it's just causing one issue after another. And I agree with that. I don't blame him for that. I would love for them to just focus on the core product, right? But that doesn't defeat the fact that third-party indexers can still index these cursed inscriptions, and inscription numbers do not need to be changed if if what Benny said is true.
Well, their argument based on the blog post is like they want to make some updates to the protocol, which would introduce discrepancies like the 4 points they listed, which is like multiple inscriptions per transaction, inscriptions in reveal inputs, inscriptions with new fields, and multiple inscriptions in the same SAT. So I'm not really quite sure how
Right.
that would affect their updates. I'm kind of neutral on the stance myself because I have to dig a bit deeper, but there's some interesting points from both sides.
I do want to add, I seem pretty strong, like pointed on where I stand with this, and that's just with like my minimal knowledge of things and what I've read so far. But I accept whatever evolves from this. I accept it. I'm not going to go out and cause a big old fuss to anybody. I'm not going to tell people to get lost and F you for screwing us over, because at the end of the day, it is what it is. And that's all I can say about it. Now, I can't speak for other people. I mean, if someone loses thousands or millions of dollars because some update is pushed to this core code, like I said, there could be some kind of legal implications there for the people who push that code and run that code. And that's all I'm going to say.
That would be horrible if the ordinals were in a legal battle with something like this. So, hopefully, at the end of the day, I think all of us that cares about this space wants the best decision for the space to be able to move forward as quickly as possible with as minimal damage, right? So I think that's definitely the goal, but can we get there? I don't know. Go ahead, Shizzy.
No, I'm actually curious what Jay Lee's opinion is on this. I actually haven't heard from him on this. Jay, if you can speak on this.
Yeah, sure. So my thinking is that, okay, Casey mentioned why he wants to change the inscription number, but is that really necessary? Because obviously it's gonna be a mess. A lot of programs, a lot of products actually is based on the assumption that inscription number is the proof of time. But once we change that, what's the benefit? The benefit is that, yeah, people get rid of something unreliable. But I do agree inscription number is not that reliable. But if that's the case, at the beginning, don't add that. Or you already add that. It's already 7 months later. And the code is still running good. Why even change? That's my point.
Right. And to add on to that point, Jay, I appreciate your insight. Like, everyone saw Leonidas's tweet, that, the quote and of the tweet that was deleted and is now an inscription. You can't sit there and say inscription numbers are immutable when they're not. So I love this space. I love the discussion, and I truly love everybody involved. I can say this with honesty, is I've been having a lot of fun these last few months. I've met a lot of real interesting people, built a real cool team, and I'm just having fun, man. And that's what I want to keep doing. So for me, I think I'm gonna step down at this point and listen in, because I want to let other people like kind of put their voice out there and be heard. And I feel like I've been speaking a lot and kind of just being redundant. So I appreciate you guys having me on, and I appreciate everybody listening. And keep an eye out. We're going to be opening up I'm going to end on this. We're going to be opening up the GitHub to the public on Friday for the Tap Exchange. And we're also I'm going to be doing like a voice chat, like pretty much all day in there. We're going to have like a little party.
I think you mean Discord, not GitHub, guys.
Yeah,
Discord
sorry, Discord. Yeah, sorry. We're going to be
It's gonna be
opening up the
public.
Discord. I'm going to be doing like a voice chat and kind of having a party and doing some giveaways and things like that. So that'll be open live to the public on Friday. Yeah. Thanks again for having me up here, guys. And I appreciate everybody. Love y'all.
Yeah, thanks for giving everybody an update on Tap.Exchange. We're all excited about the future of being able to, do some stuff with the Tap tokens. So I want to call on Benny here. Benny is, if you don't know, you haven't been in the ordinal space for very long. He's the main developer for the Track protocol and also the Tap protocol. So Benny, if you don't mind, sir, kind of give us a breakdown of how you're feeling right now. You've been really involved with conversations on what's going on, and You can kind of tell us how you feel.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Yeah, I feel sick at the moment still, but I'm trying to make the best out of it. Yeah, like everyone else, I started to chicken. So total normal reaction to that. And after I calmed down a little bit, I was actually thinking how to solve that solution and or helps not solve, but help solving that problem. And like there is a lot of like these yeah, take a snapshot and then everything will be fine. Sorry, that's not how things work, right? You cannot just take a snapshot and say, hey, that's your account balancing now on BRC20. From now on, we use this version from the odd wallet, and then next week we use the other version, take another snapshot. This is like asking for trouble, right? I'm also when it's about forks, right? I can see people coming up with fork ideas if there's if as last resort, right? So last resort. So let's say I don't know, everything really goes bust, right? I don't know, things go really haywire, right? But hey, at the moment it's filed under ideas on the GitHub. Nothing is decided. So based on the little information that I had, like anyone else, I realized that it goes a little bit further than just quote unquote just the numbers being shuffled, but also causality will break moving forward. So you, if that goes out like this without any further measures, we will have like Back to the Future kind of grandfather paradox all the time moving forward. So that would, let's face it, that would be such an event, of course, where you could say, all right, this is not reliable anymore. We're cornered. We need to fork that, right? I could totally understand that, but still, I don't want that. And so just a couple of hours ago, I had my tea and had just had thinking about it, and then I had an idea how to tackle that. And that would, sorry, and that would basically be instead of covering all the edge cases that they're covering now in that odd wallet, which is at the moment 4 edge cases, not in first input, not at offset 0. What's a reinscription and unrecognized even field? I think that was 2 or 3, a couple of versions earlier, right? So instead of taking care of that, flip that around and care only about one case, namely, what's the original rules, and mark that as strict. So, and when you mark that as strict, yeah, just a literal label, strict, yeah, instead of numbers, just kill the numbers overall if you really want to, just label them strict. Any old indexer can then go and just count all the strict ones. There won't be no cursed included, there won't be no reinscribed included, not in first input included. They can delete everything there, what's cursed, and just do whatever they want. And projects can just say, okay, in the specs, you know what? We take that risk. We're not requiring to be strict. Or they say, oh, this is we require that that this is based on strict, right? On the strict flag. And therefore we have reliable numbers. And these numbers were then provided by other indexers. And that's something that anyone can do. Magic Eden can do that, right? Track, of course, can do that. Unisat can do that. It's like literal what what Santi was saying. It's like counting, right? So you just count the strict ones, the strict inscriptions from the past, but also into the future. And you do not care about anything else. And at the same time, the odd wallet can keep progressing, and they do not need to take care of all these cursed rules any longer. So I was just a couple of hours putting that out. To me, it sounds like a viable solution with the least friction. got some minor feedback already from what's the how's he called?
Cypher.
Cypher, exactly. I'm not sure if he's a core dev or not, but he seems to be involved. He signaled that he generally likes that idea, and now we're trying to move that into the GitHub discussion because this is just a viable solution. Not the. I'm just saying a viable solution to maintain causality, to enable the odd wallet to progress further, and last but not least, to have ways of keeping the original numbers. Yeah, because everything that is now inscribed on the positive side is strict. So that's basically it. Yeah, super simple. Just flip that around and just care about one thing indefinitely, and that's it. And that's and that is the strict stuff. So that's basically uh, how, at least I, from my perspective, would approach that. And I hope that something like this would be considered, so we do not have to have another day of chickening out. You know what I'm saying? So that's basically my take on that. Thank you.
Gotcha. So just to be clear, it sounds like your proposal was to kind of have like a main standard of strict, and then the other like third-party indexers could provide projects that want to use be able to recognize a different standard, to be able to recognize possibly cursed or anything else. Is that kind of in summary?
Yes, but cursed wouldn't exist any longer. They would just be the proposed unstable ones from Casey. Yeah, and that strict, it's just a name. I could be called, I don't know, stable or whatever, right? But this flag would literally just be a flag and not really like a protocol changing thing. It's just a signaling, hey, this inscription has been entirely made by the original rules. Yeah. And then that's it, basically, principle. That would allow for meta protocols to stay stable, yeah, which we have already, BRC20, Bitmap, TAP, yeah, or Zcash, and all the others.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a great plan in terms of not having to like change back and forth down the road, right? You'd have consistency. So I love that idea actually. But I want to call on Eric. He's had his hand up for a minute. Go ahead, Eric.
What's up, guys? Thanks for inviting me up, Shizzy. I'd like to throw my thoughts on it. I spoke on it this morning. I'll touch on what Benny just did. I heard in the space earlier today with CB Spears talking, and he kind of touched on what Danny brought up from OCM, right? Was, without messing up ordinal inscription numbers for some people, and I'll touch thoughts on that in a second. Was basically here from this point on, everything is unstable. We remove the curse, and those gaps are filled, right? Because if people remember why curse became a thing, is when those BRC20s came about and everyone was minting absolutely insane. It caused gaps. Right? So just to layman's terms, so cursed filled those gaps. But at the end of the day, we're talking 200,000, give or take, at most, cursed inscriptions, where the last 100,000 was literally within the last week. So, in that regards, it's not a ton. It's not a lot that we are talking to fix a system. Where it needs to be fixed, right? But at the end, your ordinals are, to verify those, they're time and date stamped, and the hash transaction ID is what literally verifies those. Because any metadata you have to fill out goes off that transaction ID, which isn't changing. So true date stamps can technically go off that when you remove curse. But for the sake of that, to touch on this, to not sound biased in any direction, I own quite a bit of sub 100Ks and just random ordinals, right, under 50,000, 100,000, and I didn't buy them because of those numbers. But there's a few, say, Knox with SkullX, right? They specifically put those ordinals on the 666 block for their incentive of the dark arts, right? So if that was to screw those up, that would be detrimental to that team, and that's not what's needed either, right? So I understand where they're coming from to make the system better, because it's not like this is something new. This was brought up around the million or so inscriptions. I know Benny can attest to that, and it was voted to keep it going, right? But I think it's brought up again because now they see the issue with the indexing and it needs to be resolved. And if we want this ecosystem to keep growing and to onboard more people, we need to resolve it, but we need to resolve it in a way where it doesn't hurt investors that bought inscription numbers because of those numbers, because they were inscribed so low, etc. And like I said, it's not like we're talking millions. Not many would be affected. A lot of those numbers could be. I think Blockchain Racing. He's in the crowd. Was making some tweets today. A lot of those were Sats inscriptions, right? Some are BRC20s and text inscriptions. So it's not all art. But to look at everything and not mess those numbers up. I mean, I would agree. Hey, keep the numbers that way. But I'm also in favor of we need to make the indexing and the protocol right to advance forward in the ecosystem. So, I'm glad we're all having open debates and civil discussions about it, and where we can go online and put those things there for everyone to review before that final decision is made. So it's great to hear both the pros and cons, people playing devil advocate, etc. So that was just my 2 cents on it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, appreciate that stance and opinion, man. Right now, I feel like the ordinal space is in this position to where we're either going to make it or break it in terms of like, are we going to have a ton of infighting or not? And I love that a lot of people are just coming with a calm and open mind, even though they might be one way or the other a little bit more. So definitely appreciate that opinion, Eric. I think definitely hit a lot of great points there. But yeah, anybody else have anything that they want to throw in after hearing Track and Eric? Go ahead, Shizzy.
Yeah, I kind of have a question for Eric. What would be like if you had to pick one way, you could not pick the other way, you either go with it or not? What would you pick?
With what's been proposed to move forward, if they keep everything existing how it was and say at 35 million, now we go with unstable and curses removed. That's what I would prefer. So you don't mess up those other collections that went off number based, like the 666s and the 420s and what have you, right? But my overall end vote would be to make the protocol correct. So we can continue growing the ecosystem in the future. And if that means inscription numbers are changed, then so be it. The timestamp and the ID doesn't change, but at the end of the day, we want a working Bitcoin blockchain that we can all continue to use moving forward. So that's what I would prefer.
Awesome. Thanks, man. I was just curious because that's kind of like how it is now. Is it one way or the other, or or do we have a voice in this? Like, I feel like Casey's being the CEO of Ordinals, and I feel like our voices are kind of getting drowned out, and that's why I kind of wanted to bring. I don't even know what to do from it here. Do we just listen to our CEO, or do we rebel against it?
Well, I think that. Oh, go ahead, Eric.
I was going to say it's all in Gitbook, right, where you can voice your opinion as well. But I'm curious to see what Benny has to say since his hand went up also.
Yeah, and right before that, I want to say that I think it was a good sign that like Cypher and Benny have been kind of collabing because he definitely Cypher has his little his position as pole within in the core there. So yeah, I encourage Benny to keep doing that, keep pushing, brother, because you need to be heard. You're one of the hardest working devs in the space. So go ahead, Benny.
Yeah, I totally agree with Eric. Such things to take care of historic inscriptions, needs to be taken care of. But I need to emphasize, as the idea has been communicated right now, it's ongoing. So that would mean if we don't address that ongoing, we will have an ongoing perpetual problem all the time in regards to meta protocols. What I earlier mentioned about the grandfather paradox, so to say, that would render that would be catastrophe for basically everything that's meta protocol, right? Even simple stuff like first is first. So it needs to be combined and fun. And just like Eric said, take part in the discussion, not the Degen way. Like when you're on GitHub, just remember you're not on Twitter anymore, on X, and just make it constructive, and they listen to people, right? And Casey, being the CEO, well, it's his baby. You need to respect that. From it, there is something like a developer code, right? So it's his baby. You need to respect that. I don't like to yeah, to shit on people just because they have an idea, right? Which it is yet. It's an idea. So if we are not coming up with constructive solutions that makes a dev think like, yeah, that's cool. Actually, can do that. Then it helps. If we just approach them like, OMG, hell breaks loose, fork, and ordinals will die, and of course, what choice do they have, right? Like, I mean, imagine you're a dev and you're getting shit on all the time, right? At some point, you just don't check your inbox anymore, right? So it's a human thing. So yeah, that's what I just wanted to add. Thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of like build their passion, and something that we definitely frown upon 100%. And I was just joking when I called him CEO, but the way it came off yesterday, it definitely sounded like it was that, and that was no other choice. But yeah, but you are 100% right. We do have a voice, and we can go into GitHub and we can express ourselves. But you are right, it's not X over there, and we have to treat it like it's not X and kind of be professional, because this is at the end of the day, this is something we all strive to do, potentially full time. So it's just we definitely have to like say what we think, but we have to be respectful of his baby, like just like Benny said. All right, what do you and anyone else have anything to say? Anyone want to add to this? Anything like that?
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything there in terms of what's going on. There's going to be spaces about this, like probably until the decision's made, guys. So we have a lot of time to continue to discuss this. One thing I will say is, like, be proud to be in ordinals right now, because there's I've been in different environments in DeFi, and this is something that would rip communities apart, like hardcore from the beginning, and really hard to bring it back. So really love the discussions that are happening, and just try to keep an open mind. Like, all of us have money invested into this ecosystem, right? So we all have some skin in the game here. But go ahead, Sam.
Hey guys. Yeah, so I think, like, I honestly I wouldn't be here if the inscription number meta wasn't there. Like, that's the full truth. Like, I don't think any of us would be here in the I truly believe that. So it's like, okay, well, it, just it's what's don't fix what's not broken. You know what I mean? I mean, you could figure out a way to keep everything as it is, and then, like, hopefully fix the indexing issue after 35 million. So yeah, there'll be a little blip, but I mean, again, I'm not an expert to speak on this, but, like, in terms of the indexing, because I don't understand fully how it works and what issues are created based on those cursed inscriptions. So, but I think. Yeah, that's just what I think. Like, I think inscription number meta was what it started it all, for a lot of people. So
I think there's a mixed audience with that, right? You have a lot of these people that are more about the art and more about just developing and being innovative on the chain. But then you have a lot of people that are here for the collectability, because I will say for 100% fact that, in my personal opinion, the ordinal sequence and how early stuff was being inscribed, it changed the NFT market for me. The eyes that I see, like, it made it more of a collectible community on ordinals than it does typical NFT communities. I don't know, maybe I didn't research enough on other chains, but for sure, and like I said, I have family that work in the collectibles, like in real life collectibles, cards, jerseys, stuff like that. So for me, it connected with me. So there's definitely that aspect of it, but I understand too, kind of like Jason, for example, from BitLive, right? You can tell he has a lot of developer type of background and stuff. So he's more about like building, being innovative and stuff. And then you have others that are more about collectible. Go ahead, Rubel.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this has been discussed or been on this space for a while, but I believe when Casey brought this out, it was all about the parent-child concepts. And I was wondering, Benny, especially for what you were saying, I like what you're saying. I think that's a great idea. But will that still cover that, I don't know, expansion or growth that Casey's or whoever's developing it for this parent-child and scenario?
Sorry, I didn't really. I have problems hearing. Sorry. So, was it a question for me?
Well, sort of. I watched the Casey and Aaron podcast, I think yesterday it was, or the day before.
Ah,
And I understood
yeah.
the whole idea of this changing of the ordinals numbering system was to take into account the updates that they want to do with the parent-child inscriptions. And I was wondering if your concept of strict, etc., whatever you want to call it, would still give an inscription number to these inscriptions moving forward in this parent-child concept.
No, no. The parent-child inscriptions. The children would basically be considered cursed. At least at the moment, they are cursed, right? So if you inscribe something with the odd wallet, that's parent-child. Then the children will be cursed. They would be excluded from that. Yeah. And to be honest, that if you then it then depends on your meta protocol. If you're saying you want to be strict and have parent-child, want to have parent-child relations, you would basically need to come up with something to be able to implement that, right? That wouldn't work natively, yeah. But if you say, okay, you know what, don't care about if they're strict or not, right? Then you just wouldn't make it strict, and you just would follow the features of the odd wallet, right? With the given problems that you could have later on by this problem that at any time things can get reshuffled, right? It really depends. If you're not dependent on meta protocol indexing, you can do that. It's absolutely fine, right? You have a provable parent-child relationship, right? But then that's it. Yeah. If you want to rely on meta protocol indexing, from my idea, you would then choose strict. So hope that answers that.
Well, I was sort of more bringing to the forefront that the whole idea of this was for this update that they're doing. Am I correct in assuming that, or
Historically, not really. Maybe in the back of the mind of Casey, it was like that, but factually, it came up with the insight that there should have been inscription being included that weren't included. That's how it started. And Super Testnet came up with this hack that introduced unbound inscriptions. Then maybe somewhere in between it got added. Yeah, with this parent-child concept, right? In the end, and that's basically, I believe that's the actual problem. It's just that curse inscriptions over time became just some sort of quote unquote trash bin, where you just put something for later, So, and that's the impression that I have, but I certainly know and remember it started with inscriptions. It was like 1700 relatively early inscriptions that originally weren't included, that should have been included, but weren't. And then Super Testnet's hack came up, which introduced the unbound idea. That's my historic observation from that time.
Okay, yeah. All right, thanks for that. Thanks for explaining that.
All right, guys, we're gonna end this now. We got Leonidas starting something over there, and I think a lot of people are leaving to go to that anyway. So we're just gonna end this here. We went about an hour and a half. Benny, really appreciate you being here, man. I know you're sick and you're fighting through it, man. And we just really appreciate you being here. Your voice is the absolute loudest in the space, and we really appreciate that, man. Really appreciate you just really getting out there and putting your opinion online, even though you're not having a great day like physically, and we just appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. Want to thank everybody that came up on stage to speak. Want to just thank the whole space, man. It was a great conversation today. Make sure you're staying up to date with Tap.Exchange. There's going to be big things coming. We're going to move forward, guys, no matter what, in the space together, right? So just wanted to make an announcement, that Ordinal Revolution has officially partnered with the Ordinal side. So we are official partners with that project. We're going to get into that even more on Saturday. We're going to host a space, I believe at 3 p.m. Eastern is what I believe that's the time, but we'll get into that and talk more about that. We're going to do kind of a launch party for that platform. Guys, you need to check it out. It's going to be the biggest exposure platform for Ordinal projects. Anything you're building, you want to give exposure, it's going to be the Ordinal side. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We look forward to seeing you guys on Saturday, and go ahead, Shizzy.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, we've been friends with Sam for a long time, Sam from the Ordinal side, and it was just kind of like something that we thought about for a while, and then we just jumped in with him because we really like his platform and what he's building, and really about the person that he is, and that's what we're all about here. We're all about the people, and when Sam offered us to be a part of that, be co-founders with him, then it was something that we had to jump at, and we're going to talk more on that on Saturday. So just come to the launch party. Obviously, we can have our spaces Saturday morning, the same time as always. But then later that day, we're going to do another one, launch party for Sam's platform. And yeah, we really appreciate him giving us this opportunity, and it should be fun.
Yeah, hey guys. So yeah, this is exciting. So I think there's a lot of synergy here, and so the platform is completed, so it'll be a launch party, yeah, super excited, and I think this is going to be great. There's going to be exciting times ahead, so let's go.
Let's go. Get the energy up. All right, y'all have a blessed day. We will catch y'all on the flip side. Peace.